What is up, everybody? Today, I've got something really cool to show you. As you can tell by the title of the video and the fact you're already here, this is a video for what we call the Human Translation Project. Literally a translation project of the Japanese exclusive Evangelion card game. This was released originally in 1998 and was, as I said, exclusive to Japan and only in Japanese language. It was based around the show, and as well as had a second set based on the End of Evangelion movie. In 2005, on BoardGameGeek, the page dedicated to games of all kinds, there was an individual who uploaded full English translations of all of the cards. He had kind of repasted it over the original card scans and tried to make it look as good as he could for 2005 and not the greatest technology. As you can imagine, those scans and translations have not held up incredibly well over time. They were also, no offense, it's really appreciated that he did this, but they're not the greatest translations in general. So we recently decided to remake this game and update every facet of it. This game has been, or not this game, sorry, the show, Evangelion, has been released recently on Netflix with an exclusive dub, and has now, for the first time in years and years and years and years, become incredibly accessible to the masses. For a while, it was something that was really hard to get any DVDs of. The VHSs were prohibitively expensive, and it was just kind of tough to watch without pirating it from somewhere or already having seen it. Now, on the other hand, it's extremely easy, and more people than ever are able to watch it. So we decided to introduce more people than ever to this original game. First step of that process, though, was trying to improve what already existed. So we took the 2005 scans, and we said, what can we do to make these better? And the first thing was, well, let's get the art at least cleaned up a little bit, because the scans are so old and poor. There's a lot of them that were really oversaturated, that are they're just so fuzzy, it's hard to tell what the art even is. And we're like, no, well, now that Netflix has its sort of remastered version of the show, why not re-screen grab all of the scenes that are on the card and get the cards to at least be updated? Well, that was our first step, and it was fine, except the high-resolution art really clashed with the outdated and kind of fuzzy card templates that existed. So then the next step became, well, let's rebuild the template itself from the ground up with a brand new, it's still designed to look like the original template, but it's a brand new template. Everything is a brand new layer, recreated entirely to maximize the clarity, to just really make these look like the most, official modern product they could be. That wasn't all that we did, though. The next thing that we did was we went through, found the original Japanese guidebook for the game, to where they had the explanation for each of the individual cards, and retranslated everything to English with more accurate current translations. Additionally, though, because we used the screen grabs from the Netflix remastered version of the show, we also took the card names, the flavor text, and the quotes that the characters speak to one another within the card game, and replaced all of the original text with lines taken from the dub of the Netflix version. Now, anyone that knows Evangelion knows the divide, if you will, on the opinion of the Netflix dub, but realistically, if you consider releasing a product free, for fans or not, the idea is to make it the most accessible to the most number of people. Currently, the most accessible way for Western viewing audiences to view Evangelion is through Netflix, and most Westerners, whether you agree with this or not, watch anime dubbed. So statistically, the most new Western viewers of the show would be watching the dubbed version of the Netflix show. So we went through and we made all the dialogue match that version of the show to really capture the emotion that that version of the show specifically had. So you'll find as I go through these, the art or the text may not match a quote you'd be familiar with from like the Japanese dub or from the original show, but will instead match the way that it was said within the Netflix dub. So what we did is we went through each card, we figured out what each individual scene was from, flipped through episode after episode, after scene, frame after frame, found where every single frame was from. That was an undertaking and a half, finding the exact frame that every card art was from. Mess, but we got there, we did it. And then what we did is we took that scene, watched kind of, a couple minutes on either end, and found that the dialogue that went with that moment specifically, and just made everything kind of match back up. So we'll start sort of just from the top. I'm going to go through, just kind of run through just the art and like what every card looks like. I'm not going to really dig into like every single card effect. There's hundreds of cards here. I just want to show off that this exists and show you guys what it is and where you can get it and how you can play it yourself. The first thing that we have is Instrumentality Cards. These are your win condition within the game. They're double-sided. Originally, I just flipped two. Originally in Japan, these were double-sided as well. The back side of the cards originally, the level 2 side, was gold stamped here where it says level 2, and then the title was gold stamped as well. They weren't foil like this, but just for printing's sake, because these are your on the board all the time card, we decided to just make them a little flashier and make them foil. So you've got your front side, you have to accomplish whatever your task is, and then there's an instrumentality phase at the end of each turn. At the end of the turn, you check to make sure you've passed your instrumentality condition. If you have, then you flip your card over, and then once you've done the same thing with the second condition, you win the game. So we'll just go over like this one specifically. So for Rei, if you pass this stage, if Rei and Shinji were assigned to battle and defeated an angel. So the angels do exist within the game, as you can imagine, and they are drawn randomly from decks as you draw a card. If you draw one, you immediately put it into play, and it like attacks Neo Tokyo. The way the game works is the board is set up with the individual characters already on the board, and the angels will attack the city, and the characters then have to deal with it. And you, as all of the players, the game is designed to be played multiplayer. All of the players have to then work cooperatively to try to figure out how to stop the angels. Or maybe your goal is to not stop the angels and just watch them kill everyone. That's kind of the move for like Gendou decks. So it as big surprise, right? But that's sort of the goal. So you don't in this game play as like a specific character. Your deck instead focuses on just building around the instrumentality of a specific character. So if you wanted to play like a Rei deck, you would build the instrumentality of Rei. And your goal within building the cards would typically be to do whatever the instrumentality for that character is, and to get their individual... The cards you would play, maybe you would have some red kind of Asuka themed cards, but also some blue Shinji cards and stuff like that to build the best deck you could to accomplish what their instrumentality is. So you wouldn't play like an all-white Rei deck, because that wouldn't get you to where you need to be. But each character, for the most part here, has two instrumentalities, two kind of different versions of themselves. And the back side of the card is like an alternative happy ending for the individual character. So one thing that was really cool is originally this art was completely brand new to the game. It was not scene grabs from the show like all the other scenes were. So that's a really neat thing about the game that we tried to stick to any time that we could, was the original backside art of these cards, just to try to keep that new fancy art anytime that we could. So here, for example, the sort of happy ending idea for this card is that Rei and Shinji end up together. And so like it's, they're standing there together, and there's the quote, "As instrumentality began, he shares his heart and changes his smiling face. His kindness, his words of apology. She spoke to him through her first tears. I want to be with you." So it's just like an alternative to it's like extra ending, if you will, to the original show. This one here, this one's just First Children. As you know, they call it sometimes like the first child in the original dub, but in the Netflix dub, every single time they say it, they call it the first children. So we stuck to that anytime that we could. So like for this one, for example, this is more of like the mean kid Ray card. You pass this stage if a character other than Ray was down by a white card this turn. You pass the stage if all main characters other than Ray are down. Misato, for example, this is one where her goal was to defeat the angels as best you could. This is one that got a little bit of card bleed from the print, unfortunately, but still works. You pass the stage if an angel was defeated this turn. You pass the stage if an angel was defeated this turn. If you were defeated by an angel this turn, return to level 1. So this is just the Misato, who's the military genius that she is. This is her. This is that version of her. Where alternatively, this is the version of Misato where she's more of a woman and the more emotional side of the character. And each character you'll find kind of has this version where there's like the one that's kind of the more tactile, battle-focused version of themselves, and one that's a little more focused on like their emotional side. This one, you pass the stage if Misato is down by a green card this turn. You pass the stage if Misato's been grouped alone with a male character since the end of your last turn. This deck, there's actually a pretty cool deck for this specific instrumentality. It's a lot of fun, built around like a couple card combo that kind of makes this happen. But this is a pretty unique one where your goal is to kind of like purposely hurt the character you're playing as. There are also ones for Ritsuko. And of course, Gendou, the Human Instrumentality Project. There's just one for him here. But look at that, just iconic, man. And you'll find with a lot of these instrumentality cards and like the AVAs and stuff like that, the flavor text is more like descriptive of the show and the content itself, whereas the cards will have more of the like actual combat cards will have more of these show quotes. Here's one that there's a couple that come specifically from the End of Evangelion movie. This is one for Yui herself. I absolutely love the art on this one. This is easily like my favorite looking instrumentality card. The congratulations ending. Shinji is friends with everyone. Shinji is praised by his dad. This one you just win if you get Shinji and Gendou alone. We've got Asuka. This is Combat Asuka. This is if Asuka and Shinji end up together. You know, the iconic scene. Just, man, I don't know if there's a more iconic or infamous scene in anime history than I'm so fucked up. Here's Asuka happy with her mom. This is another one for Ray. This art looks really cool too. I like this one a lot. One where Shinji and Misato end up together. Nice little brand new art of them enjoying an evening. Yui and Gendou, of course. And then we've got the Avas themselves. AV Unit 1. Oh, there's a little bit better version of that. AV Unit 2. Ooh, focus. It's kind of hard to have it focus on these foils here. And of course AV Unit 0 as well. Then we finally have the main characters. Shinji himself. Asuka, Rei, Ritsuko, Misato, Gendou, and we've got Maya. Now, Maya is my favorite character, so we actually had a couple custom cards made for her. We gave her her own instrumentality, level 1 and level 2. This scene hurts a lot. But we did, just because to fill out the rest of the stack of foils, we did the same instrumentality card, but foil on opposite sides, so you can kind of pick which version you wanted. And then we did an alternate art for Maya. Same card as the one that I showed a couple cards back, but just with an alternate art of her just kind of enjoying herself a little more, hanging out. Now, as I mentioned, the angels are of course cards as well. The angels, like I said, do show up within the deck randomly. They do actually have a different card back than the regular cards, which would be a little alarming if you're playing without sleeves. But the idea was that you would like see an angel coming up and know like, oh, angel warning, and then once you drew it, you would have it happen. But playing with sleeves, you won't. But when you draw it, you would see it and you'd say, oh, angel attack, and then you'd immediately play it. And they have a strength of their own, which the Avas would battle. And you'd have to be able to beat them. So, like when Sashiel, for example, is beaten for the first time, it's not, gets 1 extra strength, becomes a 2. A couple copies of that. We got Shamshell, the 4th angel. And you'll find that like each of the angels also have a flavor text really explaining who they are and what they're about. Just kind of a little more world building there. Got Ramiel, the 5th angel. Gagiel, the 6th. Israfel, the 7th. Sandalphon, the 8th. Matariel, the 9th. Iriel, the 11th. Leliel, the 12th. This is a crazy angel, man. And then, of course, Bardiel, the 13th. Of course, then, too, you have the later ones from the later end of the series as well. Ariel, the 15th. Armaciel. I don't know if they ever even say that angel's name. Armaciel, the 16th angel. Lilith, the 2nd, of course. There's an alternate, Leliel, the 12th. This is another version of the card that exists within the game and is a slightly different effect than the other one. Characters again: Gendou, Maya, Evangelion Unit 1, or Unit 0, Unit 1, Unit 2. Now, the Avas start in play, and then you can assign a pilot to piloting them and send them out to battle the angels. But within the deck as well, you can also have additional Avas, and you can use those to buff the stats of existing Avas or to replace ones that have been defeated, to kind of symbolize rebuilding them, stuff like that. This is getting a little bit long for the video here, so I'm going to go a little more quickly through some of these. Just going to kind of show off what we have. So we have some battle cards here. These are like your action cards. You know, you play something and something immediately happens. Like instants, you know, in another game, or an extra card, and or a trap card or something like that in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something of that nature. On the cards, they've got a quote here with either little triangles, or there are little circles as well. The triangles symbolize that you hurt characters with this card dialogue, or you harm them, which means to separate them from each other, or the circles mean to attract, which means to put them together. And then they are color coded to the character that they hurt or attract. So this card, you could play it to harm Ritsuko, Misato, Asuka, or Shinji. You can use that then to pick one of them and to separate a character from them. The card itself then, when you play these cards, you get an effect, and then they have a plus value. This is the draw power that you get by at the end of your turn. You add up the cards you've played, and that's the number of cards you'll draw back up at the end of your turn. Got a few copies of I'm Not Gonna Lose Again. A couple of copies of They're Gonna Pay. No one gets away with taking a shot at me like that. Shinji's the one who meant to wear this outfit. Fighting is a man's job. You said it, Misato. I'm number one. I'll show you how it's done. Good old Shinji having a moment of bravery. Oh, when Rei sacrifices herself. No fair, that's cheating. A playset within one deck in this game is 3 copies of a card. Some decks have 1, some have 2, some have 3, so that's why you'll see like there's like 6 copies or whatever of this card, because multiple decks will include copies of this card. But this one is just kind of a pretty generic card. Just gives any Ava unit +2 strength until the end of the turn. Gives you a draw power at the end of the turn. Hurts 4 of the primary characters. It's just a pretty good card. Have multiple copies of that. It's eating an angel. It's a terrifying scene. It's able to ingest the S2 drive on its own. Card's draw power is equal to the strength of an angel. Defeated this turn, that can be pretty big. Just play this, beat like a big angel, get like 3 extra draw power. It's really strong. First impressions of Unit 1. That's 1 more second than 0. It's a really cool scene, and it's a cool card. Gives you a little bit of deck control. Double the strength of an angel. So like this is a card like I was talking about, where sometimes, you know, you're working together. The idea is to stop the angel from attacking the city normally, but sometimes maybe it makes sense that you want the angel to keep attacking and you want it to beat your opponent. So, you know, to make them lose, to make a character go down, to trigger one of your instrumentality conditions. And so you'll have cards like this that actually hurt, that actually buff the angels themselves and make combat harder for your opponent. The Positron Rifle itself. This is like the pallet gun, but you'll notice it has +3 strength and -1 weapon, or -1 draw. So you don't draw a card, you don't get to draw a card at the end of your turn for playing this card, but you get more strength than the last one. So that's your little trade-off. Suit to withstand high heat, pressure, and nuclear attacks. Cast or install the self-destruct encouragement program. This one's another one where like you can, right before angels are, or right before Avas are assigned to attack, you can just skip the battle phase. Just keep an angel on the board, keep it attacking the city, and maybe that's your goal. Some decks want to do that. Switch control to the dummy plug. Board activation. Have Ray launch in Unit 0. This card I really was excited about. AT Field. Just a really cool scene and a great card art. Another example, get +1 strength, but draw 2 cards. Mommy, you were here. Graw. Another one too. I don't know how to explain this in a way that makes sense, so I'm just going to say it. This game is so incredibly loud for me. I mean, maybe it's just because I spent the time finding each of these scenes and the quotes, the dialogue, but like for me, each one of these quotes, you know, is so audible. Like I can hear these cards. I can hear this scene. I can hear the way, you know, she says lose and the way she says like you, and it's cool. It's just fun to reread these. It feels really thematic, and especially having spent as much time with the show as I have, each one of these cards feels incredibly real. We're outnumbered 5-1. Bad odds indeed. The Lance of Longinus. A lot of copies of that. Quaru. Character other. These aren't main characters that start in play. They're characters that show up later and can be added to the board. Maya is one of those. Ryoji Kaji is one of those. Here we've got a alternate second children Asuka. These are called put cards. These are they're like permanents. You put them in play and they attach a thing. They either attach to a character or they sit just kind of on the board and do an active thing. So like this card, during each turn, swap the main phase and the battle phase. So this just stays on the board and just continues to act. Unforeseen accident. Scared of Misato on the first. There it is. There's that scene again. Progressive knife. That's how he gets by. He just quietly obeys what people tell him. Alright, we got one more little stack here. I'm gonna get us on our way. Maybe we'll sub 30 this. Shinji here with these are called dramas. They're just they're designed to build up tension within a scene. They're typically reactions or do something to change the orientation of the characters on the board. Typically, instead of being focused on the actual battle portion of the game, this is more of the emotional drama, no pun intended, that exists within the show. Anyone that knows Evangelion knows that there are robots in it, but it's so much more than a show about robots. And these are the cards that represent that part of the show. You betrayed me. This is a really cool card. As a reaction, change the target of one line used to harm a character to any other character could harm instead. And then it also could be used to attract multiple characters. Just a cool card. Mommy. I love this art. I'll be your friend. Ooh, what a creepy scene. What a sad scene. And Shinji disappears and it's just clothes. Gave us the runaround. Good old anime with its aptly placed assets. This place is a total loss. A lot of good philosophy in this show. Can't turn back the hands of the clock, but we can force them forward. It's a cool card. Just a way to get away from an angel for the turn. Everyone just refills their hand. Gendou's deck is a lot about just having massive cards in hand and just always having options. This is a powerful scene too, man. Reaching absolute borderline in 2.5. These are tears. But I wanted to see them one more time. And I think what I felt was genuine. Man. Emotional show. No reason for you to be the test subject. Counterspell. I don't think this is what I want.